Good morning. Today we will be in chapter 2, where we will be looking at the overall of research plans and proposals. As we have learned in our first lesson, research is a process, and it is a very systematic process. Systematic means there are steps that we need to follow, and we cannot go to the next step without following the step before. The reason for the need for a systematic approach is to make sure that our research remains objective, not biased. Bias means we have a judgment on the issue before we even get our findings, and also to ensure the validity of the findings. Valid means it represents the real scenario or the real phenomenon rather than something that is not valid or is not true of the phenomenon. So this consists of several stages in the planning of research projects, which we will see in the next slide. On slide 3, you will see the stages in planning a research project, which consists of 10 stages, one being the topic selection. Topic selection is often the most tedious. Tedious means it's a long process. So you need to be patient and you need to be consistent and persistent in trying to select the topic that you like the most to do according to what you are passionate about. So to understand this or to identify this, you need to read a lot, and you have to understand the gap of research that you would like to address, and then from then only you can decide your research questions, research objectives, and continue on to work on your conceptual and theoretical framework. So step 2 and step 3, as well as step 4, are continuous loops, meaning this is an ongoing process that you need to do before you come up with a conclusion that can lead you to deciding your research questions. Because once you have understanding on what are the research questions you try to resolve or to understand, then the rest is easier. The rest is just following through by understanding the information that you will need to answer the questions, by deciding the strategy that you will use to get those information, by looking at any issues of ethics, such as dealing with minors or children, that you need to clear first before you can get access to your data, and then conducting the research, reporting the finding, and deciding on how to store your data. Now let's look at each of the slides more carefully. Stage 1 is choosing the topic, and to choose the topic there are several sources of ideas that you can look for. First, and I think the most important one, will be your own interest and passion. What is it that you would like to research? And normally this interest and passion relates to what you do in your life. For example, if you are a student of tourism, then your passion and your interest should be in the area of tourism. So talking about tourism, we are looking at the issue of sustainable tourism. So maybe you will be looking at either of the 3 pillars of sustainable tourism, which is environmental sustainability, economic sustainability, or societal sustainability. So there are so many topics to choose from in just any of these pillars, and so you will have to decide based on your interest. And then the next source of ideas would be from the literature. By reading what has been done in your area of interest and the things that you're looking at, your passion, then you will understand what are the gap of knowledge that you can try to fulfill through your research. Okay, so this gap of knowledge can be anything. It can be theoretical, it can be practical, but whatever it is, it has to contribute something to the total understanding about that issue. We can also look at more applied issues such as policy issues, or management issues, management problems. So, for example, looking at the issue of youth migration in rural areas and how this affects the homestay business. So that is a management issue, or it could also be fall under policy issues that you could investigate. So the same thing in whatever industry that you are linked to. In hospitality, you will look at management issue of hotels or restaurants or spa centers. For events, maybe you will look at management issues in terms of sponsorship, in terms of audience management, in terms of risk management. So there are so many gaps of knowledge that we could try to address through our research. Okay? And another source of ideas would be any contemporary social concerns such as over-tourism that we have mentioned before. Over-tourism is due to so many international arrivals and happening everywhere in the world, causing crowdedness that could affect satisfaction and service quality of a given tourism destination. The issues could be plastic consumption, water consumption, or other environmental issues. The next slide shows us more sources of information that we can use in order to get ideas about what topics to research. Okay, so one source of ideas could be from popular or media-based issues. So this could be the current issues affecting our world right now. For example, in terms of tourism, maybe we can look at something political, like for example the issue of lockdown in Kashmir right now, and maybe we can try to understand about the possible sustainability of Kashmir tourism after the lockdown that happened very recently in that area. Other issues that we could maybe consider is IR 4.0, as we have discussed in the last class, and how each of the industry, tourism, hospitality, or event, will be affected by IR 4.0. We can talk about job security, we can talk about awareness, we can talk about capability building. So it can be anything under the topic of IR 4.0, which is very popularly discussed right now. Other sources could be any published research agendas or recommendations from past research. Also, if we go to any of the funders, they have their own research agendas that we could follow by coming up with our own proposal related to their research agendas. For example, if we were talking about the Ministry of Higher Education, when they talk about research agendas, they now want to have research titles that try to address any of the sustainable development agendas of the country. So if you can develop a proposal related to that, then it's possible that you will get funded by any of the agencies. Ideas can also come from brainstorming among potential research collaborators. So whoever that you want to collaborate with, you can have some kind of meeting or brainstorming session so that you can get a clear idea of what to focus on. Or it can come from any existing secondary data out there that could be developed further to generate new research. So that's what source of idea number 8 is all about. In the next slide, we look at the source of idea that come from the literature. So if we have done our reading, we could be coming up with topics that try to cover something that may have been tested only in one country or one region. So in this case, the reason that we are doing the topic is geographical. Sorry. So this is one way to justify the topic that we are looking at. Or we could be doing something that may have been established on the basis of experience of one social group only. So, for example, the issue of homestay related to the Malay, but not related to other communities such as the Chinese or the Indians or the Portuguese or any other subgroups of social community in Malaysia. So if we try to do something related to this, then the reason we're doing the research would be social. Okay? And so we could also, based on the research, be addressing something that has been outdated. So we will be, the reason for doing this kind of research will be temporal. That means we are trying to bring out the latest findings relating to a certain topic or a certain issue, because as we have already discussed in the last class, social science is a very dynamic field. So what was valid 5 years ago may not be valid anymore today, and so we need to redo the investigation in order to understand the current scenario or the current phenomenon related to the topic that we are looking at. So that is temporal reason for doing research. The next reason, based on the literature, would be contextual. Contextual means we are looking at the topic or the issue using a different context. So, for example, if we have always been investigating homestay from the tourism perspective, then maybe we should be looking at the role of events in the promotion of homestay business. Would it be something that the practical practitioner out there should be looking at? Would event be an attractive factor for attracting more market to the homestay business? So that would be something contextual. And the last one would be methodological, meaning we are doing something because it has not been done using this method before. So, for example, looking back at the example of homestay just now, if it has been, in the past it has been investigated only using quantitative survey, then maybe the next approach would be doing it qualitatively, where we will be interviewing the practitioners of homestay business in order trying to understand their perspective on certain issues. So let's say we have decided our topic. The next thing that we need to do in the research process would be to review the literature in greater depth. This review of the literature is a very important component of the research process because it is the fundamental or the backbone of the whole project that we are looking at. Okay, so the review of literature on its own can be the entire basis of a research. There are so many research publications that is only reflecting the conceptual aspect or the systematic literature review of a certain topic. So it can be accepted for publication just on the basis of the literature review itself. Okay. Review of the literature is also important because it will let us know what has already been done by previous literature in the topic that we are looking at. So this will make us be able to understand the gap better and to also avoid repeating what previous researchers have already found out, have already done. So we will not be reinventing the wheel, so to speak. Instead, we will know where is the gap of research that we can try to address, so that the knowledge becomes more clear and more understandable. And so, as a researcher, we will be adding to knowledge rather than just repeating what has been done by others. When we review the literature, normally any journal article will be segmented into several parts. including one part on the methodology, okay, or the theoretical underpinning of the study. So just by looking at this section of the reading, you will be able to understand better how to apply certain methodology, how to use certain theories to guide research. Okay, and also review of the literature will let us be able to compare what the past researcher has said about certain ideas or certain issues relating to a theory, for example. In the next few slides, we will be looking at stage 3, that is devising conceptual framework. Conceptual framework is the framework that explains the main things to be studied. This is where, based on our readings and our understanding about the topic that we're looking at, we will be able to isolate the variables that are most relevant to our study, and then try to define and conceptualize these variables better to fit the purpose of the study. So this can be done either graphically, using diagram, or narratively, that is using words. Yeah? So at this stage of the research process, we will be looking at the key factors, constructs, and variables, and the presumed relationships among them. And we will be critically looking at the literature in order to present this to suit the purpose of our study. Okay? So this conceptual framework can be rudimentary, that is basic, or it can be elaborate. I think at PhD level, then you will have to have an elaborate discussion on your conceptual framework. But at undergraduate level, maybe you look at the basic framework. Okay, they can be theory-driven or common-sensical, and it can also be relationships that are just descriptive or causal. That means how one variable can affect another. The whole process of developing a conceptual framework is again a loop. That means it involves a continuous process of reading and understanding and trying to put things together to come up with your own conceptual framework. Okay, so this can start by when we do our reading, we try to identify or list the concepts that are most relevant to the topic that we are looking at. Okay, so then we will need to try to define the concept, and define the concept has to be conceptual. It has to be relevant to the context that we are looking at. So we have to again based on our own reading and our own common sense. Okay, and then once we have all our concepts defined, then we need to operationalize the concept. Operational definition means we now try to define the concept by adding something more measurable. So operationalized concept would be definition that will explain how each of the concepts can be measured in order to create understanding for our own research. Okay, and so once we have all the concepts operationalized, then we can try to explore the relationships between the concepts. So the whole process is again a loop, a continuous process that require us to keep going back to the literature in order for us to understand better about the concept, about whether we have used it properly, we have defined it properly, we have operationalized it properly, and that we have looked at the correct relationship based on what has been found in the past among the concepts. In slide 3.10 here, we look at the relationship between concepts using a narrative example. So a narrative means using words. So in this example here that is given by View, is looking at leisure or tourism activity participation or involvement. Okay, and these arise as a result of a decision-making process that each of the individual will be experiencing. Okay, so with this topic, we are looking at the driving factors or the influencing factors that could lead to tourism or leisure activity participation. Okay, so this could be depending on a variety of events and circumstances. One of it will be probably the availability of certain facilities or accessibility to certain facilities, tourism facilities. So whether these facilities are available and accessible will influence the participation of the tourists or participants to any leisure and tourism activities. The factors could also relate to advertising and promotional factors, which could influence people participation in leisure and tourism activities. It could also be related to cost or how expensive or how cheap it is for an individual to participate in a leisure or tourism activity. Or it can also be influenced by a chance event. This refers to our social grouping or how we connect with our friends and families and how they could influence our decision making in our leisure and tourism activities. Another factor that is also relevant and measurable for this topic will be the socio-demographic characteristic of each individual, because when we talk about tourism and leisure activity, it could relate to age, whether the person is a middle-aged person, a young person, or an old person. It will influence how they participate in leisure and tourism activity. The same thing with income. Income mostly relate to the affordability of an individual, how an individual can afford to engage in certain leisure or tourism activity. It could also relate to their personality, because some people, as you know, can be extrovert and some people could be introvert. So it is possible that the extrovert personality will be more social and will be more keen to participate in leisure and tourism activity, because usually leisure and tourism activity involve a social occasion where you have to mingle with other people. So personality could be an influencing factor. Another one could be past experience, whether past experience in their involvement are satisfying or not, could influence whether they will further participate in the leisure or tourism activity in the future. In this next slide, it is looking at the same example, but explaining it in the form of a diagram. So using the same example, you have the individual, and we are trying to determine whether the individual is either a participant or non-participant in any tourism and leisure activity. So in this next slide, we look at, we add another component to the diagram where we now list the influencing events or circumstances that could affect the participation of the individual to become a participant or non-participant in any leisure or tourism activity. So the chance or events that we will be looking at, we listed in here. Things like advertising, price, chance events, availability and access. All these are the influencing events that we have identified using the literature that we put here as the factors influencing the decision of the individual to participate or not participate. In this next slide, we expand the diagram further by adding the individual characteristic or the socio-demographic components of each individual as possible influencing factors. So we list all the characteristics that has been identified in the literature to affect an individual's decision making. So this list include age, income, personality, and experience, just like what we have seen in the narrative version. So now that we have identified the possible relationship or the possible factors influencing the decision to participate or not participate, the next thing we have to do would be to define and operationalize the concepts that we have already identified. Okay, so the concepts should be defined according to the literature and also according to its relevance in the context that we are looking at. So in this example right here, given by video, it has been defined that participant in the leisure or tourism activity are a person who engages in relatively freely chosen activity during leisure or free time. And then this has been operationalized by any year, a preceding year, as a way to measure the participation. So it has been operationalized as participation in activity identified as leisure at least once in preceding year. So there are numbers there that you can use in order to measure. The same thing with if we are looking at definition of participant in tourism. In tourism, the definition of participant would be person who travels away from home for leisure purposes. But if we were to operationalize this, then we have to put numbers there, and it could become travel for leisure purposes at least 40 kilometers from home with at least overnight stay in preceding 3 months. So we can then use this number to really identify the data that we'll be looking at. Continuing further on the definition and the operational definition, for the example that we have been looking at just now, for chance event, this has been defined by you as unplanned occurrence which affects decision to participate. And to operationalize this, the definition is events which an individual claimed affected recent decisions to participate, such as past experience or advice from friend or relative or item read or seen in the media. So it's very specific there of what to look at when we look at chance event, or how we want to measure chance event. In slides 3.16 here, we are looking at individual characteristics of the socio-demographic profile of the respondent that we are looking at. So we will be doing the same thing. We will be defining their age, their income, their personality, and their past leisure or tourism experience. But we will also be operationalizing each of these factors. For example, for age, we can look at their last birthday. For income, we can look at their annual household income before tax. Or for personality, we could see results of any test out there that could give us some ideas about a person's personality. For example, given by Bill Smith, Myers-Briggs test. And for past leisure tourism experience, we can be looking at activities undertaken in the last 6 months, or for tourism, trips taken in the last 5 years. So there are specific numbers, so we can again be looking at here in order to measure our variables. Once we we have devised our conceptual framework, we have already defined and operationalized each of the concepts that we have identified, then the next thing you have to do is to decide on the research questions. This is on stage 4 of the research process. So it can be looking at defining further what we will be measuring, what we will be looking at in order to understand the issue that we are investigating. Because the focus of a research project should be a question that requires an answer, or a problem which requires a solution, or even a hypothesis which can be either supported or unsupported based on the empirical data that we will be collecting. So from the research questions, we will be able to come up with our research objective, and this research objective will be the basis on which we will decide our research design. Once we have done our research objectives and research questions and research objectives, then we will start to list our information, the kind of information that we will need to collect. This is stage 5 in the process. So the research questions will be used as a guide to the kind of information that we need. For example, if we refer back to our leisure and tourism activity participation example just now, then we will need to find information such as the socio-demographic profile of individuals that will be our target respondents, and other influencing factors that we have already identified based on the literature. In this slide, once we have already identified the kind of information that we need to find, then we can start to strategize how we can find those information. So we need to be able to understand if there are any project elements or stages that we need to try to abide by in order to get the appropriate data. So for example, if we are looking at a topic that has not been measured in the past quantitatively, so that means there are no existing quantitative instrument that we can use, then we may need to do what is called as qualitative scoping. Scoping means we will go out, first of all, to interview certain people in order to understand what are some of the variables that we need to measure in order to devise our quantitative instrument more accurately. So that means in our research we have two stages, the scoping stages and the actual fieldwork stage. Okay, so again, this depends on the topic that we are looking at. In other words, we are looking at our gathering techniques, our data gathering strategies in more detail. So we will be deciding whether we need qualitative approach or quantitative approach, or do we need to do mixed methodology? Okay? Are we going to do interview? Are we going to do observation? Are we going to do street survey? Are we going to do online survey? So all of the techniques will be used that we need to use to collect our data will be detailed out in this stage. Okay? In other words, we are looking at our gathering techniques, our data gathering strategies in more detail. So we will be deciding whether we need qualitative approach or quantitative approach, or do we need to do mixed methodology? Okay? Are we going to do interview? Are we going to do observation? Are we going to do street survey? Are we going to do online survey? So all of the techniques will be used that we need to use to collect our data will be detailed out in this stage. When we detail out our data gathering techniques, we can also look at secondary data. So, because secondary data could also be useful in trying to shape our understanding about certain relationships of the variables that we are looking at. So, the information that we need to gather should not be limited just on published material. It can also be secondary data, published secondary data, that means what's already found out there and published, or it can be unpublished secondary data. That means maybe it's still in the process of reporting, and we can still use this as one of our info source. Okay? Or we can choose to do observation. Observation is a qualitative method that we can use in order to try to understand a certain issue. Okay? Or we can use other qualitative methods such as ethnographic methods, participant observation, informal or in-depth interviews, group interviews, or focus groups. As we go on in our next future classes, we will be looking at each of these qualitative methods in more detail. So if you don't understand this right now, don't worry about it. You can start by trying to Google the definition of each of the methods so that you can have a basic understanding. But in our future classes, we will be looking at them in further detail. When we talk about quantitative, we are looking at questionnaire-based surveys. It can be face-to-face, it can be telephone surveys, it can be site surveys, postal surveys. There are so many ways of doing quantitative surveys, which we will also be looking at in greater detail in future classes. We can also do experiments, but usually experiments is more suitable for scientific research, not really for social science, because again, as we understand it, social science is a dynamic process, so it is hard to contain it in a laboratory setting or to find a control that we can try to use in order to have an accurate experiment. And also, there is a case study approach where we can try to understand the topic that we are looking at by using case study. So we will be researching in depth of the issue with using just one particular community or one particular setting or one particular concept. Once we have decided what information to gather, then the next stage would be deciding the analysis for the data that we will be collecting. So data analysis, there are so many software out there that we can use in order to analyze quantitative data. For example, SPSS, which is very popular among researchers and widely used. But there are also other software that we can look at. For example, the latest one is R analysis that we can use in order to analyze our quantitative data. If we are gathering the qualitative data, there are certain other ways of analyzing them as well. We can use NVivo, which is a software that is designed to analyze qualitative data, or we can use manual schematic analysis in order to analyze our qualitative data. So whatever data analysis technique that we will choose will depend on how much money we have in order to use that, if we can afford that software or not. Yeah, so the budget is very important, and also at this stage we will also need to draw up our timetable of what milestone we would achieve at what stage. Okay, So we will need to do a Gantt chart, which I will show you in the next slide. This is an example of a Gantt chart. Basically, it is just a timetable where you have to decide depending on how much time you have in order to complete your research project. So normally we are given either 6 months or 12 months, sometimes even 2 years in order to complete a research project, depending on the scope of the project. Yeah? So we need to determine the milestones or the deadline for each of the milestones that we plan to achieve in order to make sure that our research can complete within the stipulated time. Okay, so we will normally start with review of the literature. How long do we need in order to complete our review of the literature? It needs to be ample time that we allocate for review of literature, because because this is very important to shape up our understanding about the project that we're looking at. So allocate a long time for this, normally about 3 to 4 months. And then we will start with our second milestone, which is the secondary data analysis. Whatever secondary data that we find relevant to our project, we can start analyzing it within these few months that we have allocated. And then how long we will allocate for fieldwork or conducting any survey that we need to do. How long is it that we will need to analyze the survey, and also if we need to do additional data collection methods such as focus group or observation. So this needs to be allocated also when and how long we will need to do this additional data collection method. And then if there's any need for presentation, then we have to allocate when we need to do this presentation, so that we'll be ready by the time we need to do the presentation. And also, when do we plan to do the write-up or sharing of the report findings with the community that are interested in our research findings. An equally important step in our research process will be to obtain the ethics clearance. This is particularly true if our target respondents are in the group of a community that needs certain, that can involve certain ethical issues. For example, if we are trying to research the minors or the children, these children need the consent of their guardians or their parents in order to participate first. So we have to make sure that we get the consent of the guardians of the parents first before we can approach this particular target group. So again, also the same thing, if we have something, we are involved in a topic that relates to animals, so there must be some ethical standards there that we will have to abide by, and we need to make sure that we have the capacity to abide by all these ethical standards before we can proceed with our study. Apart from the specific ethical clearance that we need to abide by, we also have to understand that we need to also make sure that we have the competence that is needed in order to complete our research on time, that we have done sufficient literature review in order to understand what we are doing, that we try to avoid any unethical behavior such as plagiarism or the use of other people's idea without their permission or without acknowledging them, or any tendency to falsify the results. Falsification of results means we are not reporting the data that we have, rather we are reporting the data that we think our audience would want to see. So this is not reflecting on the data that we do find in our study, and this is unethical. Once we have carefully designed our stage 1 to stage 7 of the research process, then we can start conducting the research. And conducting the research would be very more successful if we have done stage 1 to stage 7 completely and carefully. The next stage in the research process would be to report the findings. Reporting the findings can be in written form or in oral form. In written form, of course, we first of all need to do our report writing, which we will need to hand back to our funder or to whatever agency that we have received the money from. And then we will also need to publish. This is called dissemination of research findings. So we can publish by sending an article from our report to a journal. So if the journal finds it acceptable, they will publish it. And so this is a good way to make other people know what we have found in our research. Whatever new knowledge that we have generated from our research will be shared with other people who are interested in the same topic. Okay? We can also report our findings orally through conference presentation or keynote presentation or any other way that will let other people share the findings that we have so that they understand what we have done and can use that probably to guide their own approach to the topic. In planning our research process, we should pay particular attention to the following problems or factors that could impede or slow our research process. One of it is the most favored methodology syndrome, which means we are not designing our research according to what could be most useful to our context, but rather blindly following an existing methodology that may or may not be suitable to our research context. The second one would be to have the notion that the results of the study could solve all problems. As I have mentioned in our class before, each of us will play a role of a researcher that adds pieces of information to the whole puzzle of knowledge that we are looking at. So each of us will contribute only one part of the issue to the knowledge and not really able to solve all the problems. It is not impossible. It is just not possible to do this at all. So that's why we have to be more practical, and this again affects the researchability of our study to begin with, because if we try to solve all problems, then we may end up with research design that is impractical and cannot be done. So when we design our research, we have to be practical. We have to make sure that we are able to complete this research that we are trying to do. The next factor could be designing questions that cannot be examined, that cannot be operationalized, and cannot be measured. So, for example, here, if we try to understand if robots have feelings, how can we measure this? It is just not possible. Yeah? So that's why if we try to research this, it would be something that is not researchable, it's not practical, so we should avoid it. Next factor that could impede or slow research process would be not defining the problem properly, and this is probably due to the fact that we didn't really read the literature or understand the literature properly. Okay, and finally, we could also have problems during our research if our research is heavily influenced by some political figures or political parties that want that have their own agenda and want the result of the research to be favoring India win. So to sum up, we have been looking at the research process and the stages involved. We have looked at step 1 to 9, where step 1 is selecting the topic, and then we looked at how, based on the topic, we can review the literature, and also looking at the literature, we can further refine the topic. Remember, this number 1, 2, 3, and 4 are a continuous loop until we really understand what would be the conceptual framework that we'll be using, and also what are the research questions that we will be looking at. Okay, so the research question will help us shape our research objective, and from this we will be able to decide the information that we need and how we can strategize our research gathering technique. Yeah, and we can also try to look at any ethical issues that we have to clear first before we can start conducting the research. And then the next step will be actually conducting the research and then trying to disseminate the findings by reporting it through journal articles or conferences. Okay, so we have understood the processes involved in the research. So look at this question here that I have and try to think on your own and also discuss with your group the following question. If AirAsia were to engage in a study, what will it focus on? What kind of research will it be interested in doing or be passionate in doing? Outline ways in which it might use research to pursue its objectives. Next one, based on the above objectives or outcomes, investigate its research activities. What proportion of its budget does it devote to research? Maybe this information you can Google, you can ask somebody with more knowledge about Asia. And also you discuss how are the results of the research used by the organization or by others. So I hope this question can stimulate your thinking about the research process as it is applied in real life situations. Thank you.